Hi friends, today we'll see the shortcut method to find out the percentage of any number by using some examples. Before we start our tutorial, we'll first review this percentage table, how the percentage is represented in decimal and fractions. So, the 1% is represented in decimal as 0.01 and in fraction it is represented as 1 divided by 100. The same 10% is represented as 0.1 and in a fraction it is represented as 1 divided by 100, 1 divided by 10. 25% is represented by 0.25 and 1.4 is fractional representation. In the same manner, 50% is represented as 0.50 in decimal and 1/2 as fraction. 100% is represented as the same 1.00 and the fraction representation is also 1. Now let's take some basic examples. So here's the first example. Suppose we need to find out 10% of 932. So it is 10%, 1% and 100% is the simplest percentage we can find without any calculation. So all you need to do is, if you need to find out the 10% of 932, just move the decimal place to 1 point towards left. So we will move the decimal point towards left, that is 93.2. Now if you want to find out 1% of 932, instead of moving 1 decimal point, we will move to 2 decimal places, that is 1 and 2. So 1% of 932 is 9.32 and 100% is the simplest example. 100% doesn't change any number, so if you find out 100% of 932, you don't have to move any decimal places. It's the same. 100% of 932 is 932. Now let's take some another examples. Suppose we need to find out 5% of 420. So instead of calculating 5% of 420 on calculator, you can calculate in your mind within a fractions of a second. So the trick is, all you need to do is you need to find out 10% of 420. So we know how to find 10%. We just need to move the decimal place to 1 decimal point to 1 place, that is 42. Now 5% is half of 10%, right? So 5% will be the half of 42, that is 21. Correct? So here we have the answer. 5% of 420 is 21. Now let's take some difficult example. Let's find out 9% of 420. So you might find it somewhat difficult, but it's not. All you need to do is you need to divide the 9% into 10% minus 1%. So we know the 10% of 420 will be 42. That is, we just need to move the decimal point to 1 place towards left. So 42.0, it's 42. And we know the 1%. So 1% we get by moving the decimal point to 2 places left, that is 1 and 2. It will be 4.2. 4.2. Now we have divided we divided 9% into 10 minus 1%, so now we need to subtract 42 and 4.2, so that is 8, 7 and 30. So our final answer is 37.5. Now let's see how to find 6% of 420. It's also pretty simple. All you need to do is we need to divide the 6% into 5% and 5% plus 1%. So we know we have seen how to find 5%. In order to find 5%, just find out the 10% and divide it by 2, or you can divide it by 2 and then take the 10%. So 10% will be 42 and 5% will be 21, correct? Now we need to find out, we have found out the 5%, now we need to find out the 1%. So 1% of 420 will be 4.2. So in order to find out 6%, we need to add the 5% plus 1%. That is 2, 5, 25.2. 6% of 420 is 25.2. Now let's see how to find out 18% of 420. So divide 18% into 20% minus 2, right? So now in order to find out 20%, just find out the 10% of 420 will be 42, and 20% is the double of 10%. So all we need to do is multiply by 2. So 20% will be multiplied by 2 multiplied by 42, that will be 84. So here it is, 20% of 420 is 84. Now in order to find out 2%, 2% is, we can find out by dividing 20% 10. So divide 20% by 10, we can find 2%. That is, if you divide the 84 by 10, we get 8.4. Now 18% is 20% minus 2%. So we will just subtract 8.4 from 84. It will be 75.6. Let's see how to find out 25% of 420. It's pretty simple. Remember the percentage table we have seen earlier? That is, if you want to find out the 25%, all you need to do is just divide the number by 4. So by dividing this number by 4, we can find the 25% of 420. So 25% of 420 will be 105. Now let's see 50% of 420. So according to our table, 50%, the fractional representation of 50% is 1 by 2. So by dividing 420 by 2, we can find 50% of 2. So 50% of 420 will be 420 divided by 2. 210. Now let's take some bigger number. So 75% of 420. Now in order to find out 75%, just divide the 75 into 50% plus 25%. So we already found the 50% of 420, that is by dividing 420 by 2. It will be 210. And 25% of 420, we can find it by dividing 420 by 4. We have already found out that is 105. Now 75% is 50% plus 25%. So by adding these two numbers, we we will get our final answer 75% of 420. That is 210 plus 105. 350 is the final answer. Now let's take some odd number. That is 67% of 420. So we'll just divide 67% into 50% plus 10%, that is 60, plus 5%, 65, plus 2%. So we get this 67%. So we have already found the 50% of 420 is 210. Now 10% of 420 we can find the decimal by moving the decimal point to one place towards left, that is 42. Now in order to find 5%, 5% is half of 10% and half of 42 is 21, and 2% we can find out by making double of 1%. So what is the 1% of 420? 1% is we can find by moving the decimal point two places towards left. So 1% will be 4.2. By doubling it, it will become 8.4. So 2% will be 8.4. Now adding all this together, 210, 42, 21, 8.4, 4, 819, 211, carry 1, 4 to 6, 6 to 8 and 2. See how easy it is to find out the percentage if you break out in a simple form. You don't need to even pick up the calculator. Let's find out 96% of 420. So we'll divide it into 100% minus 4%. Okay? So if you remember the percentage table we have used in the beginning, the 100%, if you need to find out the 100% of any number, will be the same as it is. So 100% of 420 will be 420 itself, and if you need to find out 4%, just find out the 1% of 420, that is 4.2, and multiply by 4, will get the 4%. So by multiplying 4, 4 2s are 8, 4 4s are 16, 16.8. Now 96% is 100 minus 4%, so we need to subtract 16.8 from 420. So 16.8 here 2, 3, 0 and 4. So our final answer is 403.2. That is 96% of 420 is 403.2. Let's take some more big number, that is 175% of 420. So we'll just divide the 175 into 100%, 50% and 25%. If we add 100, 50 and 25, it will become the 175. So 100% of 420 will get the same number, 420. Now 50% of 420 will become the half of 100%, and half of 420 will be 210. And 25% of 420 will be the half of 50%. So half of 210 will get 105. So by adding all this together, 420 plus 210 plus 105 will get 735. So 175% of 420 will be 735. Now let's take some pretty difficult sum. That is 43.5% of 20. Now here how can we just divide this 43.5%? So here is the trick. Remember, x% of y is the same as y% of x. So instead of finding 43.5% of 20, we can easily find out 20% of 43.5. Correct? Yes. Now just in order to find out 20%, just find out the 10% of 43.5. So how can we find 10%? By moving the decimal point. Here the decimal point is here, and we have to move the this decimal point to one place towards left. So after moving the decimal point to here, it will become 4.35. But we need to find out the 20%, so it will be the double of 10%. So by multiplying by 2, we'll get 8.70. So here's the final answer. 20% of 43.5 will be 8.70. So we can easily say 43.5% of 20 is the same 8.70. We can solve any difficult question. All you need to do is just factorize the percentage in a proper manner. Like here 175, we have factorized it into 100%, 50%, 25%. 90% we can factorize it as 20% minus 1%. 23% we can factorize it by 20% plus 3%, but we can also factorize it by 25% minus 2%. So this will be pretty easy, because all you need to do is just divide the number by 4, we get the 25%, and find out the 1% of the number and multiply by 2. Subtract both the number and you will get the 23%. This is also the pretty simple method. You can use any one of this. 56% is 50% plus 5% plus 1%, or you can use 60% minus 4%, but this will become pretty difficult, somewhat difficult, not so much difficult, but it will become there will be some complication in finding 60%. Like you need to find out first, you need to again make factors of 60%, that is 50 plus 10%. So rather than using this method, you can use this one, 50 plus 5 plus 1, 77%. How can we find it? By 50% plus 25% plus 2%, 99%. That is pretty easy. 100% minus 1%. Let's say 222%. How can you find it? It's also pretty clear and pretty simple. 100% plus 100% plus 2 times 10%, that is 20%, plus 2%, that is 2 times 1%. Add them together and you can find it, the 222%, or 100% plus 100% plus 25%, will become the 225%. After finding 225%, just remove the 3% of the number. You will find 222%. For the sake of simplicity, we have used 420 in all the examples. 420, 420, 420, 420. But by using this method, you can find percentage of any odd or difficult number. Now try to find out the percentage of any number by yourself using this method. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to find out some more shortcut methods, please visit this YouTube channel and don't forget to press the subscribe button.